Today is 4.2, Common Sense, and it's a pamphlet or a book written by Thomas Paine. First, we're going to review. So the Battle of Bunker Hill was actually fought on Breed's Hill. General Prescott's soldiers fortified the hill by digging trenches and using cotton bales to make walls. British General Howe decided to charge even though his army is at a big disadvantage because in war, high ground normally wins. Running low on ammunition, Prescott tells his army, "Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes." On the third charge, the British take the hill, but it's a moral victory for the Patriots. So first, let's review the advantages and disadvantages of the Americans. So if you want more on this, you can go back to the 4.1 PowerPoint, and I explain all of these. So the advantages for the American side: fighting for freedom, home field advantage, better rifles that they get from the French, and then the French and Indian War experience. The disadvantages: they have a weak army, they're untrained, they have no money for their soldiers, they have no money to buy supplies, therefore they have a lack of supplies, and only about 50% of the U.S. even wanted to fight for independence, and they have no navy. The British advantages: they have a better army, very well trained, very disciplined. They have the best navy in the world. They have more resources because they have money, and the loyalists are willing to fight with them also. The disadvantages: okay, the British are fighting away from home. They are overconfident, therefore they're not willing to change their fighting style. And their weapons are not as good as the French weapons that are given to the colonists. So today we're going to talk about the Olive Branch Petition. Now, do not get this confused with the title Common Sense. These are two different things written. So the Olive Branch Petition is a document created by the Second Continental Congress. This is the representatives from all 13 colonies that are going to basically be the acting government for the U.S. at the time. And they're going to create a letter and send it to King George in Britain, and it is a final attempt to avoid war. In this letter, it says that the colonies pledged their loyalty to the king if they were given their rights as British citizens. Okay, so kind of the difference between the citizens in the colonies and the citizens in Britain. Both of them paid taxes. Okay, the people in Britain paid taxes also, but the colonists in America, they paid more taxes, and that was to repay for the French and Indian War debt. And so they did not like these extra taxes. They did not like the things like the rights of assistance or the Quartering Act, where redcoats could live with the colonists. They didn't like the rights of assistance, where the redcoats could search the American ships for no reason at all. So there are certain things that the colonists in America, they did not have their rights protected, their personal civil rights. In Britain, they had more of those rights. And then the other thing they did not get in America was they didn't have the ability to have representation in the government, in the British government. They could not vote on some of the policies or who represents them in the British government. And they did not like that. They said in this petition, if they were given those things, they would not want to fight for their freedom. They would not want to break away from England. They're fine with the king being in charge. The problem is King George rejects that. Okay, he rejects the Olive Branch Petition. Some people say he did not even open it. He didn't look at it. And that's because King George is already upset. He's upset of everything that's gone on in the colonies. He's upset of all the things that the Sons of Liberty have done in Boston. He's upset that he lost many soldiers at Lexington and Concord. He's upset that, just a thousand redcoats had just died at Bunker Hill. And King George he thinks that he needs to, the war does need to happen. And that's because he believes that he can win the war. He's 99% sure that he can beat the the American army, the Continental Army, because he has the best army. And he also says that fighting against the king is treason. So the definition of treason is a crime of betraying a country or overthrowing a government. Therefore, if you get caught fighting against the redcoats, if you get caught fighting against the British, then if you were to get captured, you would get charged with treason, and your punishment could be death. So you would be executed. This is going to scare many neutralists away from joining the patriot cause because of this. So now we're going to talk about Common Sense, which is the name of the PowerPoint. So it is a 47-page pamphlet, okay, so it's similar to a book, written by Thomas Paine. And in this 47-page pamphlet, Paine is going to state that it is common sense for the U.S. to fight for their independence from Great Britain. Okay, he does not call just for independence. He also says that they should form a whole new type of government. They should create a republic, a republican government that is ruled by the people and not a king. And there are going to be over or around 500,000 copies of this Common Sense book sold. And now at that time, there were only about 2.5 million people in the United States, and some of those being slaves. So really, about 1 out of every 5 Americans owned a copy of this Common Sense book or pamphlet that was written by Thomas Paine, that is saying that America is common sense to fight for your independence. It is common sense that you want to go to war with England because the king has mistreated you. And so that, other than the Bible, this is going to be the most popular piece of reading material in the United States by far. So the Patriots, they loved it, but many Americans felt that Thomas Paine went too far. Okay, many people had not even considered breaking away from England, or they thought that going to war with England would be crazy because the Redcoats were so strong. They had such a good navy, such a good army, and the Americans, they have a bunch of Minutemen, guys that are untrained, soldiers that are untrained, that are not paid because the Continental Congress have no way of making money. So a lot of people think this is too far, that Thomas Paine has lost his mind. So following this, following the rejection of the Olive Branch Petition, the letter that was sent to King George, basically the last attempt to avoid war, once that is rejected, the Second Continental Congress, they realize that Thomas Paine is right. Okay, they realize that the U.S. needs to declare their independence from Great Britain. And once they declare their independence from Great Britain, that means they are agreeing to go to war. So let the war begin.